Hello, everybody, and welcome to Motivating Moments, the podcast where we inspire, encourage, and equip you to live your best life. I am Steve Evans, your host, and today we're going to be diving into a topic that hits home for so many of us, especially as we step into the brand new year. And before we jump in, by the way, I want to wish all of you a happy new year. I believe the air date for this podcast is January 7th, so we're just into a brand new year. Hey, now let me ask you something. How many of you set New Year's resolutions this year? What were they? What were they? I'd love to hear from you. Maybe you've resolved to hit the gym. Maybe you've resolved to eat healthier, to read more, maybe finally tackle that big project. This is the year maybe that you're going to launch out into that degree program or finish. You've been putting it off. You've been a little sluggish on your assignments and your course load and things, but this is the year. You're going to get it done. You're going to get it done. You're going to tackle those big things that you've been putting off. I really love the beginning of a new year. It's just full of excitement. It is so full of hope. It's full of optimism. I mean, don't we look at the new year? I mean, it's some weird psychological phenomenon that triggers something in our brains when the calendar flips from December 31 to January 1. It's like, I hate to sing a Disney song here, but it's like a whole new world, and I'm sorry for putting that in your mind for the rest of the episode, but it really does hit us different when that season of new beginnings comes. And with that season of new beginnings comes a lot of motivation, doesn't it? Aren't you motivated? Don't you just feel a fresh sense of optimism? Aren't you ready to take on the world, the first of this new year? I hope you are. But here's an interesting statistic here. Studies show that most New Year's resolutions fail by the second week of February. So in other words, they make it the average lifespan of a New Year's resolution is about 6 weeks, maybe less. I know for me, I've had a bunch that didn't make it through the first day. And why is that? Why is that? Because, and we're going to cover this in today's episode, it's an interesting phenomenon. We'll get into it a little bit more. But the reason this is because what we learn in this practice is that life doesn't stop just because the calendar flips a page. Motivation wanes then when the reality sets in that we realize that accomplishing our goals may not be any easier this year than it was last year. And it's going to require more of us than just enthusiasm. I can't even tell you the number of seasons and sessions that I've spent in counsel with myself, just going, Steve, you know what? If you want to do it, you're just going to have to do it. I mean, that's basically it. There's no one way of doing this that's going to be any relatively easier than any other. There's several ways to accomplish it, but at the end of the day, it's just going to be a lot of hard work and determination that's going to get you to where you want to go. And when what we really, really need in that instance is discipline. And in today's episode, which is, I know, stunningly ironic, that we have this podcast named Motivating Moments. And I'm sharing with you an episode today that's titled When Motivation Fails. And in this episode, and let me camp there for just a minute, because, and this will become clearer as the episode unfolds, but I do hope and pray that as you listen to these podcasts, as you watch these podcasts, the videos on YouTube, that you are motivated. That somehow or another, the words that I speak as a coach, I speak as an encourager, as I am declaring belief in your ability to do more than you even believe you can, in your ability with God's help to reach the goals that He has defined for your life and set before you. I trust that that's motivating. But in this episode, we're going to explore the critical difference between motivation and discipline. Why? Because honestly, motivation alone won't carry you to the finish line. And discipline is the key then it's the supplement to come in and help you achieve your goals even when you don't feel like it. And hey, if you're super motivated after listening to this episode, and I trust that you are, and you feel like you're ready to take on the world, that's fantastic. But 2 days from now, when that feeling starts to fade, remember what you hear today, okay? Are you ready to dive into today's topic? Have you got a notepad? Have you got notes open on your iPhone? Are you ready? If you're driving, go ahead and just remember to bookmark this episode so you can come back to it later, because I think you're going to need this information, because there are big things in store for you this year. And I want you to have all of these tools in your belt and be ready. Listen, motivation is a powerful force. Now, we've named an entire podcast for the sake of motivation and keeping you stirred towards your goals. And motivation is that spark that gets us started. It's the energy that we feel when we're inspired by a great idea. It's a powerful message, or even a podcast like this one. And I want you to think of motivation as the fuel that ignites in the engine to get things going. It's that spark that gets things going. But here's the catch. If I can just be honest with you today, motivation is fleeting. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and it goes like the wind. It's here today, gone tomorrow. One day we're pumped up, we're ready to conquer the world, and the next day we're just staring at the snooze button, wondering why we ever committed to that 6 a.m. workout. What in the world? Why did we ever agree to do this? Whoever thought this was a good idea? You know, I'd like to find that version of myself and have a talk with him, because this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever tried to engage in. This is the motivation trap. Sometimes an overactive motivation will get us into trouble, to write checks for us that our beings don't want to cash later. We feel invincible when we're motivated. But when that feeling fades, and it will fade, we're left struggling to keep going. And we might ask today, why does this happen? Why does this happen? This happens honestly because motivation is tied to an emotion. And emotions are unpredictable. They fluctuate based on circumstances. They fluctuate based on stress levels. Motivation can even fluctuate based on how much sleep we've had and the quality of the sleep we've had. So there are a lot of extenuating factors, as they say, that make up your level of motivation. Did somebody tell you a good job? Listen, I'll be honest with you here. Okay, let's take this podcast for example. If tomorrow I check the stats on this episode, and this episode has had exponentially more downloads than any other episode that I've ever had before, you can best believe that the next day I am above and beyond motivated to jump into a 6-episode recording session and go ahead and knock those things out and be ready to just inspire the world afresh and to just get this content out. I'm going to be so stoked you won't even be able to stand me. But, if this episode floats out there and it's not as incredible as I think it is to you folks, you don't share it, you don't like it, and maybe it performs really poorly, I don't care whether I ever record another podcast or not. But discipline and dedication is what's going to move me forward in my goal of this podcast, in the purpose of this podcast. So it happens. So what is the solution to lagging motivation? And it's discipline. We've covered that. It's discipline, but I'll reiterate. Motivation is about feelings. Discipline is about action. Motivation says, I feel like doing this. I'm thinking now of times in my life when there have been certain chores. I would say that painting a room is one of those things. I don't mind so bad the action of painting the room, but finding the will to start is terrible for me. Those first 5 minutes are torturous because I have to get up and actually prep everything and get moving with it. I rarely, even though I think it's a good idea, I rarely ever have the motivation to get it done. It's strictly a discipline at that point. So motivation says I feel like doing this, but discipline says I'm going to do this no matter how I feel. Motivation is reactive. It's sparked by external factors like a great speech, a new year, a life event, or maybe even a podcast episode like this. But discipline is proactive. I'm sorry. It's a choice that you make every single day, regardless of circumstances. It doesn't have many qualifiers associated with it. There's no asterisks to the side for you to get down, read the fine print. Not a lot of loopholes in it. A discipline says, this is what I've committed to do, and this is what I'm going to do. I don't feel like doing it. Tough. I'm going to do it. So think about it this way. When you're motivated, it's easy to work. It's easy to work. Somebody said if you enjoy what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. There's parts of me that agree with that. There's parts of me that do not agree with that because there's ebbs and flows in any part of life. And when you are motivated, it's easy to work. But when you're disciplined, you're going to work even when it's hard, even when it's inconvenient, or when it's downright unappealing. There's some of you right now, you're thinking about something that you've committed to do, and right now in your mind, it is absolutely unappealing. It seemed like a good idea at the time, but it's unappealing right now. Some of you guys talking about cold plunges and going out at 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning and jumping in somebody's pool in 25-degree weather. That would seem to me very unappealing right now, I got to tell you. Let me give you this example. Imagine you're training for a marathon, and at the start, you're excited. You buy new running shoes, got to have the gear. You map out your training schedule. You can't wait to hit the road. That's motivation. But a few weeks in, your excitement wears off. You're tired. It's cold outside. You're sore. And this is where most people quit. This is where all of that really cool equipment, those $300, $400, $500 worth of new shoes and running shorts and all those things, just finds their way into the dark recesses of your closet and never to see the light of day again. But the person that succeeds in training and finishes the race that's set before them, they're the ones that lace up their shoes and run anyway. I'm sore. Don't care. Going to run through the pain. It's cold. Don't care. Going to run in the cold. It's hot. Don't care. Got to run in the hot. It's raining. Don't care. Going to run wet. So that's discipline. That's discipline, you see. So how do we build discipline? How do we build discipline? It starts with small, consistent actions. And listen, you don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight. Right now, I am not psychic. I have no claims of any kind of abilities of that sort. But I know there are some of you right now that are listening to this podcast, and your mind is a race. And there are any number of things about your life and things in your life that right now you are purposing to change. You are making a mental list right now that once you really sit down and survey, it's going to be overwhelming. Stop it. Stop. I want to just stop you right there. Stop dead in your tracks. Because you don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight. In fact, trying to do too much at once is the main reason that a lot of people fail at their goals. So here are just 3 very practical steps to develop discipline in your life. Number 1 is what we were talking about just now, and that is start small. Start small. Just begin with one habit that you can commit to daily. Maybe it's drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning. Then do that. Maybe it's spending 5 minutes in prayer. Do that. Maybe it's writing down one goal for the day and making sure, building a plan to execute that goal. Do that. Because here's the deal. Small wins build momentum. Small wins build momentum, and momentum builds motivation. See that? So, number 1, start small. Number 2, create a routine. Discipline thrives in structure. Set a specific time each day for your habits and stick to it. For example, if you want to read more, designate 15 minutes before your bedtime as your reading time. Just stick to it. Start small and create a routine. And you say, well, what is reading 15 minutes? Let me just challenge you with this. Number 1, if since we're on the subject and using the example of reading, I just want to, because leaders are readers and readers are leaders. So this is crucial. If you read 15 minutes a day and that's your starting goal, then if you consider that's 15 more minutes a day than you had been reading. That's 1 hour more every 4 days than you'd been reading. That's an hour and 45 minutes a week now that you're reading that you weren't reading. What is that? How many books have you read in 2 or 3 months? How many books are you reading then a year? How many books are you reading over a decade? If you only commit to reading 15 minutes a day and staying consistent in that routine. Stay accountable. Number 3, share your goals with someone that you trust. Accountability is going to help you stay on track when motivation is low, whether it's a friend, a coach, or even just a journal. Just having something or someone to answer to makes a big difference. And so just do those 3 things. Start small, create a routine with it, stay accountable to it, and I believe that you can create some really needed disciplines in your life to move you towards a sustained momentum that's going to bolster up your motivation and keep you moving forward. So when motivation fails, discipline prevails. Okay, it's okay to feel unmotivated sometimes. You're going to. We all do, and but we don't have to let a lack of motivation derail our progress. Instead, we need to lean on the discipline to carry us through. Remember, discipline is a muscle, and the more you use it, the stronger it gets. Every time you show up, even when you don't feel like it, you are training yourself to be consistent, and consistency is the secret to success. Listen, I've said this so many times before, but I'll say it again. You are not what you do occasionally. You're not what you do once in a while. You are what you do, and you will become what you do consistently. Not what you do occasionally. You'll become what you do consistently. If you want to be in shape, that doesn't come from 50 sit-ups whenever you get a wild hair and decide you're going to be healthy. That comes from showing up at the gym with great regularity and consistency. If you want to lose weight, that comes from consistently dieting. If you want to be a learner, that comes from consistency in your studies. Whatever, if you want to be better at something, consistency will win the day every single time. So, when motivation begins to fade, discipline is the necessary push to keep you moving forward. So, before we wrap up, I want to remind you that the more that you are moving towards your goals, the more challenging it will become, the more challenges to your motivation, the more weariness will set in, the more you're going to have to lean into your disciplines to get you through the valley of despondency back to the next peak of motivation. Listen, before we wrap, I want to remind you that more booking information is available at motivatingmoments.online. If you'd like to partner with me or for me to partner with you in speaking to your teams and encouraging them in the pursuit of God's call and purpose for their lives, or the purpose and mission of your organization, I would love to partner with you, whether at your church or your business. I would love to just come in and add another layer of voice to things that I'm sure that you as an incredible leader have already been sharing with your teams. And if you'd like to watch the video version of this podcast, head on over to our YouTube channel and search Motivating Moments, and you can find all of these episodes there. But I want to thank you for spending time with me today. Remember, if you're listening to this on whatever platform, we would be so appreciative if you would like, subscribe, and share this episode. Maybe you know about 10 friends that you need to text a link to this episode right now and get them subscribed to Motivating Moments so that they don't miss one single episode. Hey, thank you for spending time with me today, and remember, you are capable of so much more than you think. Motivation may fade, but discipline's going to see you through. Let's make 2025 a year of action, of perseverance and growth. And until next time, I'm inviting you and encouraging you to not only stay motivated, but stay disciplined and keep moving forward. Hey, Happy New Year. Again, I'm Steve Evans, your host, and I'll see you on the next episode of Motivating Moments.